Hey guys, I'm Allison and I'm a person in recovery, and I'm gonna do my best to tell you my story and what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. So I guess I'll start from the beginning with my childhood, which I don't really know, like I can't place any judgment on my childhood because like I can't say if it was good or bad or normal because I don't really know what normal is. But anyways, I do know that from a very young age I always felt just different. Like I always compared myself to other people, especially my older sister. She's really intelligent and she can play any musical instrument that she picks up, and she was always like into fashion, and I was just different. Like I would rather have been outside, like saving animals and playing in the creek and just being by myself. And I was like that uh, through school as well. Like I always just kind of stayed to myself and um, compared myself to other people. And along the way, somewhere, I developed this core belief that I was inferior or not worthy, or like I just didn't belong. And so, that was life. I've always been, I guess, like the isms that they talk about. I've always had those. And my first experience with any narcotic, and this is one of my most vivid earliest memories. I think I was 5 years old, and it was on Easter, and I was like off by myself playing with a dog, and I broke my arm. And so I went to the hospital, and they put it in a cast and sent us home with this liquid pain medication. And it's, I remember so clearly just the comfort and like the ease. And I just finally felt okay. And so I actually asked my mom if I could have at 5, which now, like if my daughter would ask me this, it would be a warning to me. But I asked my mom for more of my pain medication. And when she asked me why, if my arm was still hurting, I told her, no, it doesn't hurt. I just like it. So, um, anyways, fast forward, life was life, you know, not like I said, I can't say if it was good or bad or whatever. It was just my life. And when when I was 12 or 13, I remember, and this is like where it all started. This was, now I know that it's trauma. It was traumatic for me. But so my mom and dad, their marriage wasn't always the best. Like, I spent a lot of time, like how I said, that I just felt like I didn't really belong anywhere. The place that I felt the most at home was at my grandparents' house. So anyways, one morning, I woke up and I walked in the living room and my dad was in tears. And I asked him what was wrong. And he told me that my mom had left. And I was like, well, where did she go? I thought she had just like went grocery shopping or something. But I asked him where she went, and he was like, I don't know, but I don't think she's coming back. And it was like a flip, or a switch just flipped in that very moment. Everything within me had changed. I mean, it was like sensory overload, like panic. And, I just didn't know what to do. And I had never really seen my dad cry, and he just looked so panicked. And I think maybe it was like a week later after that, my dad, he sat my sister and I down and he asked us, he said, I got a hold of your mom and you guys can either stay with me or you can go with her. And I didn't even ask questions, like it wasn't an option. And I stayed with my dad, and my sister went with my mom, like that day. And so it was just my dad and I. And I don't want to say too much about him because that's his life, and I'm supposed to be telling my story. But alcoholism, I'll just say that it runs in my family. So it was just my dad and and I learned very quickly that I didn't have rules or consequences for anything. So, how I said that it was like this switch just flipped? Well, it literally changed everything about me. Like in school, before I was shy and quiet and wouldn't really approach people. And I went back to school, and the kids that my mom had always told me, yeah, stay away from them. That's not the people you want to be hanging out with. I found those people, and I felt like I fit in there. We had all been through a lot of the same things. And so I started spending a lot of time with a girl, one of my girlfriends, and she had been through pretty much the same thing. And she knew a bunch of older guys and listened to music that I'd never really listened to, and just it was different. And she had already partied, and at this point I hadn't done anything. But so I was at my, oh yeah, and the first time we hung out, we like went and got our first tattoo. I was 13, and I just felt so rebellious. Um, and I was allowed. I was allowed to do anything. It was just me, me and these my new acquaintances, and I just followed their lead. But one day I was like 13, and I was at my grandparents' house, and I can't remember how I came across it, but I found this bottle of pain medication, and I looked at the label and I was like, "Oh yeah, I heard that name in one of these silly rap songs that I listened to." So I took it. I took the bottle, and later I, told my friend what I had found, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you don't have to take those. You can crush them up and snort them." So I was like, "Okay." And I did. And I remember this is like just as vivid as when I was 5 with a broken arm. But I remember sitting in my room, and I actually told her, "I don't ever want this feeling to go away," because it was like I could still feel betrayal and sadness. And I mean, I could still cry, but it just didn't come from the same place without, it just like, I just felt comfortable and at peace, which I had none of in my life at that time. So that was, I remember telling her, "I don't ever want this to go away." And I made it my mission to keep that feeling. So the older guys that I knew, they knew where to get stuff, and it was like an every weekend thing. Um, I mean, the drinking was because I'd also started drinking, and um, I don't really know if I should say it or not, but that same night that I did that pill, I also snuck out of my house and got drunk for the first time, and there was like some sexual assault that happened, which was, that was a traumatic experience too. But okay, that made me kind of like lose my place to think about that. So, all right, anyways, I started to like reach out to these people because they always had drugs. And, I started to use every day more and more and more. And I was in high school, but I didn't really think it was a problem. I just thought that it was fun and I felt good. So, and I got away with it. So why not? Why be miserable when I can just get high and be okay? So I used every day, and there was one day that I didn't. I don't know what made me decide to not use that day, but I got really, really sick. like the sickest I had ever been. And I told my dad that because I was up all night, and I told my dad that morning that I couldn't go to school. I needed to go to the doctor because I think that I had the flu. I thought that I had the flu. So he took me to the doctor, and I was miserable. I had no idea what was wrong with me. And I asked the doctor if he could just like give me a shot to make me feel better. And they tested me for the flu, and it was negative. So, I left. And by this point, like, I had used so much, and it had became my top priority, that even the people that like introduced me and the people that I thought were my friends, they had started to distance themselves because I didn't want to do anything else. I just wanted to get drugs and stay high, and that's what I spent my time doing. So I got home from the doctor, and the only person who was like a constant in my life at this point was my drug dealer. And I called him and was like, man, I have the flu or something. Like, I really want to come over, but I'm really sick. And he laughed, like, he laughed at me. And he was like, you don't have the flu. You're sick because you didn't come over here yesterday. And it made no sense. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I don't really want to talk about it over the phone. Just drive over here and you'll feel better. So, and I was so sick that I did. I got in the car and went over there, and he had something ready, and it was, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I felt better within minutes. Like, I went from completely miserable to happy and sociable and okay again. And that was when I realized what was happening. I cried. Like, I just sat there and cried and was like, so what do I do now? I have to do this every single day if I don't want to feel like that. And he was like, yeah, or you could just go to rehab, but everybody in here has been at least one time and it doesn't work. So I just listened, and I was like, okay, so I guess this is my life now, and this is what I'm going to do every day. So I just got deeper and deeper into it. And I was, along the way, I was introduced to IV use, and that was a game changer. It changed everything. And yeah, that's when, it got pretty bad. I think I was maybe 16 or almost 17. I was pretty young. But when I turned, and I had thought about going to treatment but I didn't really know where to start or who to ask. And nowhere would take me because I was under 18 years old. So a couple of months after I turned 18, I went to a 28-day program, but it was fun for me. I still hadn't faced any consequences. I was still being enabled. I could still use with no consequence. So it was more like a vacation to me. And I went to another state for a little while after I completed there. And within a week, I was using with some of the same people that I was in treatment with. So I ended up coming back home, and I used for maybe 2 more years, and I had heard about medication assisted treatment. So I was like, okay, well, my drug dealer was right. Rehab doesn't work clearly because I'm back here. So I'm just going to, go to this place. So I did. And I would like to say that it worked immediately for me, but that it didn't. I still used heroin for maybe the first year and a half, but it got worse because I had to use more to be able to feel any effect from it. So I have 2 daughters, and this is the part that I get choked up about is oh, all right, I'm gonna get it together. So I met the girl's dad, and I got pregnant with Lainey, and I went to my first ultrasound, and I was like asking questions, like what's this and what's that, and there was like this red flashing on the ultrasound screen, and I asked what it was, and the tech told me, oh, that's your blood flow going to her, and that's like she's getting everything she needs. But when she said that, that's my blood flow going to her, I thought about the IV use. And so that, I made up my mind, and I was like, all right, you're not going to be sick. It's really selfish of you if you continue to use. So I stopped IV use and took the medication that was prescribed to me. And I maintained. I had her and her little sister, and life was, I can't say that life was true, but I maintained. I was alive, and I was able to take care of my daughters, and yeah, I'm grateful for that I made it through those years. Without MAT, I wouldn't have. So the girl's dad, when we met, he would like drink every now and then, and oh, see, here I go. This is not his story. This is my story, and I don't want to say anything about him. But so when I had stopped using, I thought that I couldn't tolerate anybody drinking around me, or the girls. Like I couldn't handle that. So we separated, and it was the girls and I for a while, and it was hard, but the love has always been there, which is what has always carried us through. So I I think it was maybe like a year later, I got into I met someone who was in recovery. And so this whole time I think I should add that I had no self-worth. Like, I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I could do anything alone. I didn't think that I could be happy alone. And and I met this guy who was in recovery, and he was really good at painting this outside picture of perfection, and I was very naive. And, I didn't think that I was capable of making any decisions for myself. So for a long time, he called the shots, and I just went with it. I just felt like, finally somebody else can make decisions for me, because I didn't think that I could. So, and I was still, at this point, I was still on the medication assistance. I was on that for a long time. And the person I was in a relationship with, he ended up relapsing while I was in school. And I was told that I can't judge or I can't say anything, because I didn't know what it felt like to be clean, because I wasn't really clean. I was still putting a substance in my body. So I was in no position to say anything about it. And so, that made me think, like, well, maybe I'm not really clean. And I've been using since I was 13 years old. I've been dependent since I was 14 or 15. How can I say anything about it? And so I didn't. And I didn't say anything, and I just put my head down, and I think I had like forgotten that I'm truly a drug addict, and if I hang around people who use, I'm going to use. And so, and those words about how I don't know what it feels like to be clean, it made me, I guess spiteful would be the right word. So, it was one of those, okay, well, I'll show you, and I'll just not go anymore. Like, so I started to come off of the medication a lot, way faster than I should have, or that is recommended for anybody. It was so unhealthy. And I had a job. I can't or I shouldn't say too much about it, but I had a job, and I just had easy access to drugs. and I gave in after a while, because it was like the more that I came off of the medication, the more I wanted to use. So I did. And every other time that I had used before, it was only me. Like, I have always used by myself and only had to worry about drugs for myself, and I didn't have my daughters. So, but this time it was different because I was using with somebody else, somebody that I was in a relationship with, and things got bad so fast. I mean, from like the day that I used, I don't really know if I could call it a relapse or not, because I was on that medication. But so from the day that I used, it was within 3 months, I had lost everything. I, I physically and emotionally and mentally, I could not be a mother. I could not even be a human being. And so, yeah, I lost everything, and I just completely stopped going to the treatment center that I was at, because I was using so much. And that went on, and I had to get a hold of the girl's dad, because at that point I knew that they deserved so much better than I was capable of at the time. And so they went to stay with their dad, and after they weren't with me anymore, that's when I just didn't care. I had always, I've always said, if I lost my girls, I would have nothing to live for. And I said that so much, and it happened. Like, I had to let them go stay with their dad, and I didn't want to live. So my using this is when I hit bottom. I hid from everybody, and I can't really say that like I wanted to die, but if it happened, I was okay with it, I thought. And I had got into some trouble with the guy that I was with. We had gotten into some trouble, and I was like hiding from everybody, and I remember my mom, oh yeah, my mom and dad are remarried, by the way. They were divorced for 10 years maybe, and then yeah, they're remarried now, and life is grand or whatever. So um anyways, my mom called me, and she was like, Allyson, just come here and face your problems and your fears, and just handle what you have to. And I remember I was so weak. I got in my car and I was trying to drive, and I can't explain this because there's just not words for this. I think it was like God or something not from this. I don't know. Like I said, there are no words, but I knew something from like the core of my being told me that I was going to die. Like, and I knew that I had a decision then. I think that was like the turning point for me. And so I went, and I'll never forget that, by the way. But I went to my mom and dad's house, and my dad, I've always been really close with my dad, and he just told me, he was like, well, this is the time. You're either going to make a decision or you're not, and you'll never see your girls again, and they'll come to see you at your grave. And when he said that, I, that's what I visualized. So the next day I went to treatment, long-term treatment. And and it was the best decision that I have ever made. And and it was hard and not easy, but I have gained so much. I know now that it makes me want to cry. I know now that I can um, okay, all right, I'm done. I can be happy by myself, and and the sense of belonging that I searched for so long. Um, I have that now, but it's with God, and and it's nothing like, I mean, it's way better than fitting in, or like hanging out with the cool kids or whatever, like it's like it's home, the relationship that I have. And and before I went to treatment, i I didn't believe in anything bigger than myself or more powerful than myself. And and today I have my girls, and it's just us. It's my girls and I, and I get to be creative with them and acknowledge their emotions and how they feel, and teach them how to handle those emotions, and teach them how to be independent. Um, and we pray together, and yeah, we pray together, and we laugh. And when I laugh now, it's not like a surface laugh. It's like a sober laugh, like a belly laugh. And I could never do that before. And yeah, I mean, there's amazing people in my life, and honestly, I live a life today that I always thought was possible for anybody else in the world except for me. And and sometimes I don't even realize that until I stop and look around at all of these blessings, and it's just amazing to me. So yeah, I guess that's my story.
Awesome. Well, I
Well,
want
I
to
would
say
say
thank you to
to
Allison
Allison
for
for
allowing
allowing
space
space
that
that
has
has
given
given
me
me
the
the
outlet to
outlet
tell
to
your
tell.
story. And
And
I
I
also
also
want
want
to say
to
thank
say
you to
thank you to
Allison
Allison
for
for
sharing your
sharing your
story.
story.
But
But
Allison is
Allison is
actually
actually
an
an
employee
employee
with
with
Great
Great
Rivers
Rivers
Regional
Regional
System for
System for
Addiction
Addiction
Care.
Care.
She
She
is
is
our
our
newest
newest
community health
community health
worker
worker
slash
slash
peer
peer
recovery
recovery
coach.
coach.
And
And
so we
so
are
we are
thankful
thankful
to have
to have
Allison on
Allison
board
on
with
board with
us
us.
and doing amazing
Amazing
work.
work.
Allison has been working with women in recovery now for quite some time, and it's just awesome to be able to see her in this role. And so it has really been a lot of fun to get to know you over the last few weeks, and I am so thankful that you were able to tell your story this morning. And so if you have any questions for Allison, or if you have more questions for anything that we're doing with Great Rivers, please feel free to reach out to us. Allison is definitely on board to speak to other people. Maybe you have someone in your life that needs that is looking to get into recovery. Reach out. We would love to put them in contact with Allison. Allison is covering our Kanawha County area. She's also working with individuals that have HIV or hepatitis C. And so there's all kinds of awesome things that Allison is able to do in this role as a community health worker. And so we hope sorry, as I get choked, we hope that you are able to reach out to her and get more information about what she's doing in Kanawha County with Great Rivers. And so, Allison, thank you again for telling your story. And if you know someone who would like to tell their story, please reach out to us. We would love to continue our This Is My Story series. It doesn't not just, you don't have to be in recovery. You can be a family member as well if you would like to tell your story. That is totally fine as well. And so again, thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us this morning, Allison, and be on the lookout for more of our This Is My Story in weeks to come. Thanks, guys.